Okay, I need you to move a little closer to the mic so that the people can hear you. There we go. All right, welcome. Is it okay if I just call you Ose? Yeah. All right. So Ose is here and also here not in the studio. He's here virtually. Zekeri Idris Jr. is also here with us this afternoon. Political commentator, political analyst, as well as activist. Good to have you here, Zekeri. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. An absolute delight to always share this platform with you.
Okay. It was a very busy weekend, I would say, across Nigeria. Lots of things happening. You could look at everything from security to the economy, and you want to get clarity on some of the things that are going on. Politics is also very much on the table, and so we're going to be starting with that this afternoon, looking at what is happening with the ADC. Now, we know that it has been pretty much a battlefield, if you will. Some would say it's political battlefield across different states, ADC chapters, but at the national level, there is still the problem of the INEC's derecognition of the party leaders, and we are trying to make sense of what the future of ADC will be like going forward. What chances do they have? According to news reports, as of tomorrow, they are planning to go ahead with the party's convention. Now, this is a statement put forward by the David Mark-led faction, who are insisting that INEC acted out of order by derecognizing them. Now, let's bear in mind that there are different legal interpretations of what INEC did. Some people saying INEC was well within their rights to derecognize them, and other people saying that INEC misinterpreted the judgment. Let's also bear in mind that this planned convention, which is supposed to happen tomorrow, if, barring any last-minute changes, this is supposed to happen tomorrow, the same day that there's supposed to be the decision by the court on the appeal put forward by the David Mark-led faction. So all of this is going on, and a lot of Nigerians are very, very, very keen on having some sort of representation as far as opposition is concerned. But the question, and I will start with Zekeri this afternoon, is do you see ADC really, really appearing on the ballot with everything that is going on? I mean, Adamawa State issue is there, Ogun State issue is there. It's all over the place. I also understand that to a large extent, you have alliances within the party, or you're aligned with the party. What do you see playing out for ADC in the next couple of days, especially if they go ahead against INEC's advice to hold their convention tomorrow?
That's a great question. Thank you again for having me here. There are two legs to your question. The first leg is the seeming crisis in the state chapters of the ADC after the state conventions. There are in more than one places where you have multiple state chairmen emerging from that process. One thing I can tell you for free is that having been a close watcher of our democracy since 1999, what is happening in the various state chapters, push and pull in the various state chapter is politics. It's just a natural part of politics. It happens every time. It has happened with every political party. I don't see a lot of mischief in it. A lot of persons are trying to pursue their interest. And of course, I must also let you know that there are fifth columnists in the ADC who are determined to make sure that the ADC does not become a viable opposition in the next election. This cannot be discontinuance. Now, having said that, there is the other leg of the question, which is the derecognition by the now discredited Joash Amupiton, Professor Joash Amupiton of INEC. Now, this is where the real mischief, or the political mischief, if you like, has occurred. Joash Amupiton had purportedly, on the orders of the appeal court, and I'm going to say this as a common man. I speak for the common man. I am not a lawyer. So sometimes you have to pardon me if I do not, employ the legal jargons or the legal language. But I'll sort of say it the way the common man will understand. Professor Joash Amupiton, now discredited, of INEC, had purported that the reason why he is going to derecognize the leadership of the David Mark leadership of the ADC was in honor or in respect of the pronouncement of the appeal court that had said that both, like you call it faction, I don't like to call it faction, I think it's a misrepresentation of the facts, and the media ought to be very cautious in this, that both factions would have to go back to status quo ante bellum. For the common man, for the man on the street, status quo ante bellum simply means before the war. What was the state of the party before the war? Go back there. And there are two ways to look at it, and I like those two ways and let you make the final judgment. There was a Ralph Nwosu-led ADC that had, in fulfillment of its constitution, met every single aspect of the constitution, handed over to the David Mark-led leadership. They had written correspondence to INEC, and INEC was part and parcel of the process that led the transition from the Ralph Nwosu committee, from the Ralph Nwosu leadership to the David Mark leadership. And the gentleman in question, Nafiu Bala, who is now, of course, you've seen him on TV, who can barely tell is the difference between his right and his left, and I'm not being derogatory here. You can go see for yourself. He has had several conversations on TV. You can watch and tell me if I have told you a lie. Signed a letter of resignation to INEC, and the letter is now public knowledge. It is there for the consumption of the public. Apart from the written letter, there were also correspondence from the ADC informing INEC that the leadership of Ralph Nwosu, which includes Nafiu Bala, who is, we need to put this in context, just one of the 6 national vice chairmen, had resigned their position in favor of the David Mark-led leadership. But INEC, that has a professor of law that cannot interpret what status quo ante bellum is, has decided to derecognize both the David Mark leadership and, of course, even the one that they secretly favor, the Nafiu Bala leadership. The question I will ask you, Somi, and our guests is, at what point was there vacancy in ADC leadership? Because what INEC has done is to say there is no leadership in ADC. So the question is, what is the antebellum that portends no leadership in ADC? At what point was there no leadership? So if because it go back to status quo antebellum, are you going to go back to the David Mark leadership or the Ralph Nwosu leadership that has already told you that we had left? And the David Mark leadership, you must take note, the Nafiu Bala went to court after a month, about a month after David Mark had taken over. So when the court said go back to status quo antebellum, what is the status quo antebellum? This is the question that the professor of law in INEC and all of those who are pushing this crisis have not been able to answer and tell us.
A lawyer has been able to answer that, Zekeri, but I would allow Ose to get in on the conversation. Ose, perhaps you can start from that if you have an understanding. I don't know if you're a legal luminary, but if you can answer that. But then also 2 other issues that Zekeri raised, one of them being that there are no factions in the ADC, and also that Joash Amopitan has been discredited. If you could address those.
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to my brother out there because we're from the same state. I would start by first of all saying I'm not a legal person. This matter is before the courts already. And if I'm to stay in character, I don't speak on matters that are before a court of law, be it giving public opinion, be it just a conversation, especially on this kind of platform that this is the public, right? So I don't normally speak to issues that are in front of a judge, whether it be the magistrate, Supreme Court, High Court, appellate judge. But just to, in light of the conversation, I would say I agree on some of the points that the other speaker, Zekeri, has highlighted.
Which are?
Antebellum means status quo before the war. Now, we have a professor in law, Amopitan, that is heading the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC. And I'm of the opinion that the INEC, as an unbiased umpire in officiating elections in Nigeria, shouldn't be the one to interpret the law coming from the courts. Because we all know in Nigeria that the law is a double-edged sword. What a lawyer can interpret is different from what the prosecutor will interpret, the accused will interpret. But the onus of the matter rests on the courts that give the judgment. I would expect the INEC chairman to have approached the courts that gave the judgment and asked for an interpretation to remove any form of bias from his own part.
So you think that INEC is biased?
No, I don't.
Based on the interpretation?
That's what everybody is saying concerning the interpretation. Now, if what he has interpreted was interpreted by a competent court of law that gave the judgment, they won't call him biased anymore. If it's the same interpretation.
So does his current interpretation translate that he is biased?
There's no court that has come out now as of today to say this is what we meant by this judgment that was given, right? So I expect that instead of us throwing it to the public to interpret or leaning on what Amupitan has said, I expect the parties involved to go back to the court for interpretation. If the court interprets it and they give an interpretation that is contrary to what Amupitan has said, I believe that will override whatever decision INEC has made, because INEC is not a body on its own. It's still subject to the laws of the land.
Okay, like I said, I have an interpretation here by a lawyer. As a matter of fact, multiple interpretations from different lawyers. Some agree, some disagree. Exactly. Richard Ahonarogo Esan said INEC has not erred in its interpretation of the court order, that the Electoral Commission has simply done what the court ordered in a suit that both factions of the ADC are party to. He said INEC was in fact gratuitous by informing them about its decision not to recognize any primary or conventions held before the substantive suit is decided. He said INEC is just helping to clear the air that should you not advise yourselves properly, both party A and B of the same party, then your exercise will have been a nullity, will have been a futility. This is what one lawyer says, while another lawyer said that, Abdul Mahmoud faulted INEC's handling of the situation, arguing that the commission ought to have sought clarification from the Court of Appeal rather than interpreting the order in a way that effectively sidelines it from neutrality. So, even among lawyers, you have a disagreement as to what that what interpretation should have been given to that order. So where does that leave INEC? Can you really fault them for that? But again, the question for you is, do you think that INEC or Joash Amupitan, as Zekeri alleged, is or should be discredited or is discredited?
I don't think he has been discredited. Now, you've just read two opinions from different lawyers interpreting that same judgment. The first one said that he was correct in interpreting the law. What he interpreted was correct, and it's what the judgment says. While the other lawyer did not say he wasn't correct. He just said that he would have reverted back to the court for an interpretation.
Okay.
So my point being, this is why I say I don't like speaking to matters that are before a competent court of jurisdiction. I would have preferred that both parties went back to the courts that gave the judgment for interpretation of its judgment.
So let's just come back to that. You've called them parties, not factions. Do you agree with that assessment that they are not factions?
I believe it's an internal. I'm not in that party.
Okay.
So that's why I don't.
Okay, that's fair.
Another thing I would like to clear, he said something about fifth columnists having a hand in what ADC is going through now, whatever they are going through within the party, the internal party wrangling. They are fifth columnists, So that's almost like ascribing powers, ascribing whatever is going on within the party to external powers, and I don't think that is entirely correct.
I mean, it's not an entirely new thing we see, even within the current administration. Whenever anything goes wrong, you hear its loyalists come out to say that it is opposition that is doing that. So, I mean, when it comes to that, that's typical lingo here in Nigeria.
I know that's typical lingo, but I think we're on hard facts. We should we should try and step away from conspiracy theorists and stick to the facts.
No, so let's come down to it. I mean, speaking about conspiracy and fifth columnist, Zekeri, I'm coming back to you now. Why do you say that there are no factions with the ADC? I mean, you had a stern warning for the media. What are we supposed to call the David Mark party, the Nafiu Bala Gombe party, and even recently, the one that is attributed to the former presidential candidate of the ADC as a 2023, Dumebi Kachuku. That one now is a coalition of the state chairmen across various states representing the ADC. What do we call them if they are not factions?
Thank you. Great question again. And I think before I answer that question, to be the final part of my response, I need to properly situate some of the issues that I guess my brother in the studio had raised. The matter we are commenting on is not before the court. It's already an established pronouncement of court, like Court of Appeal say, return to status quo ante bellum. That's a pronouncement of the Court of Appeal already. It means we can then converse on it. That is why INEC acted on it. If INEC had acted on a case that was still actively before the court, it could be said that INEC acted in contempt of court. So if INEC had acted the way they had acted, and they purport that that is the right thing to do, it means the case was already settled at the level of the Court of Appeal. Number two, most of the problems we have is commonsensical. I will never sacrifice truth on the altar of political correctness. Status quo ante bellum. Ask a secondary school GS2 kid. Tell them if status quo ante bellum means before the event, and you ate by 8 a.m. this morning, if we ask you what did you do before 8 a.m., what will you tell us? Will the child say I've eaten before 8 a.m.? That would be incorrect. So it's a straightforward matter that, you know, the important thing in our country is that we should summon the courage to consistently say the truth till the truth become a national language. Because here, when people don't want to say the truth, they pander towards political correctness. So it is quite clear. You mentioned two lawyers that had made comments on it. Look critically at those two lawyers' comments. This other lawyer who was opinionated on the side of INEC, Claire was saying that INEC was advising. It is not INEC's job to advise. INEC is not the grandfather of political parties. INEC is an unbiased umpire. INEC should focus on his job of conducting free, fair, and credible election and take his hands off the internal administrative processes of a political party, which they are trying to do now. So nobody needs INEC advice. And for the man who supported, he is even insisting that this matter is clear enough. But if INEC had any confusion, INEC should go to court and not become court unto itself. You could read those two tweets again. You see that is the conclusion of everything they have said in the course of that conversation. But I will tell even bigger lawyers who have commented on it and have lampooned INEC, poo-pooed INEC. A very important one is Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria. I will encourage you to go and watch his video where he said that there is no antebellum where there was no leadership in the ADC. So INEC manufactured his own status quo antebellum and acted on his own status quo antebellum. The now discredited national chairman of INEC, Professor Josh Amupiton. Now,
you keep using that word discredited. I need you to provide information as to why you think he's discredited.
It is now proven beyond reasonable doubt that Amupiton was a pro-APC apologist before the 2023 general elections.
And that discredits him currently?
I'm saying this on national radio. We are challenged because he has said he's going to arrest and sue whoever speaks on it. I want to be arrested and sued by Amupiton. Then we will tell the international community, the whole world, what he is and truly what he represents.
Again, so you said you're on national radio.
Hold on, it's important for our viewers.
Yes.
There are tweets that were linked to his ex account. He has come out to deny it, but the more he denies it, the more he goes deeper. He's now leaving the territory of public relations into criminality.
Again, Zekeri, I have to stop you there. Assuming that indeed these tweets are verified and he was shown to be a card-carrying member of the APC, how does that discredit him exactly?
I did not call him a card-carrying member of APC.
No, I'm saying if we even go that whole.
Look, it discredits him because you now have a conflict of interest. You cannot be a referee in a game where you are partisan. He cannot be a member of Manchester United and then referee the game between Manchester United and Liverpool.
It still remains to be proven, but also, would you like to jump in on this? Yes.
You are waiting for a miracle to happen.
Well, like I said,
the AI that is attached to Twitter has proven that this tweet is linked to Josh Abupito. His email was used to open the Twitter account. His phone number that is on his CV was used to open the Twitter account. Everything that concerns that tweet concerns him. Even the email is shown on these international journals where he wrote about the genocide in Nigeria, Christian genocide in Nigeria. Everything that is in that tweet concerns him. So the more he tries to deny, they are now leaving the territory of the aggressive denial by INEC is leaving the territory of public relations and is now going into criminality, because when you start lying with your official capacity, you are calling for a lot of trouble.
Again,
and in the coming days, Nigerians are going to be asking even more questions.
Sorry. I hear you.
To speak the truth.
I hear you.
He needs to tell us more.
But
if he comes out today, if Amupiton comes out today and say, I was a pro-APC supporter in time past, but that was in the past. I am now INEC chairman. I no longer have any partisan leaning. I will listen to him and say, well, that is the truth. It's possible to like Liverpool last week and like Manchester United today.
Well, you haven't given him the opportunity to do that, and you're calling him discredited. You haven't given him the opportunity to do that, and you're calling him discredited.
Because he's coming to deny what has been proven beyond. His digital footprint is clear. The phone number is Joash Amupiton. The number on his phone number is the OPay account of that phone number is Joash Amupiton. And then let's stretch that further. For you to have an OPay account that carries your name, you must go through KYC, know your customer. It then means even his BVN can be traced to that. So it's a terrible lie, and we have terrible liars occupying public office.
Let's get Ose in on this. Forgive me, I'm used to Ose. Ose, all right, your thoughts on this quickly.
I share some of the opinions of the other guests. The INEC chairman should be unbiased. If they are established and proven digital footprints of him having affiliation to a political party currently, I have an issue with that. But if it's something that is in the past, like he rightly said, and like he has also acceded to that, he should be given an opportunity to say, oh, I had this affiliation in the past, but prior to when I was sworn in as the INEC chairman, I was not partisan. I didn't have any party affiliations. So I think we should give him a chance to respond to all these allegations before we could jump to the point of,
no, we are giving him a chance.
We heard several factions, several people come out and say, this INEC chairman must go, especially from the northern zone. But I think we should also try to give people the benefit of doubt, especially things that have to do with digital footprints that needs extensive verification processes. If he says his number is there, he says his name is there, he says you can tie that to his BVN, which has not been done. We think we should let all those things go. Then we should also when all those things have been clarified, we should let him respond to say if it is currently or if there's an affiliation he had in the past. Although it's from my opinion, this is my own personal opinion, I think if he had stayed away from the internal affairs of political parties, which is not his purview, we won't have been having all these squabbles that we're having.
All right. I need to come back to Zekeri because you are yet to answer the question I asked earlier. What do we call the different parties that seem to be representing ADC at this current time? Well, he said they are not factions, so let's hear what they are.
I had two more points before I answered that, but let me reduce it to one.
Okay.
You asked me, it's not you. Ose mentioned that we cannot always blame fifth columnists for the crisis in party. Let me give you empirical evidence. The People's Democratic Party in 2023 had a man go rogue on them. He committed what you can call the treasonable felony in party politics, anti-party activities. He led 5 governors out of the party, supported another party. The party he supported won elections, and he became a federal minister under that party. His name is Ezemunye Somwike from Rivers State, former governor of Rivers State. That man, that political party PDP were unable to suspend him. Every single court case he had against the People's Democratic Party, he won. And every of his lackeys within the party who had a court case against the PDP, they won. As we speak, PDP is now his faction of PDP is now the recognized faction in PDP by the court. In fact, it is even said that if Wike steals your wife and you take him to court, the court will sue you, will charge you for not taking adequate care of your wife. They said it comically, but I think it's true. All right. So that is for PDP. In the Labour Party, a certain individual called Julius Abure was purporting himself to be national chairman. Labour Party gathered and said, "You are not our national chairman. We do no longer want you." They went to court. The court delayed the case, delayed, till such a time that the court pronounced that Julius Abure was no longer national chairman. INEC, this same discredited INEC, refused to recognize the Nenadi Usman-led leadership of Labour Party until in December, when Peter Obi left. 2 weeks later, INEC recognized it, even when the court judgment has been given months prior. That is the effective hand, the monkey hand of the APC and the job of fifth columnists within political parties. Now, to your question, what do you call them? I think it beholds on the media to take a step further to interrogate issues. I expect that credible media like the one I'm speaking in and order should have by now go to, confirm the veracity of the resignation of Nafiu Bala. And when they confirm it, they can now come out to say authoritatively that Nafiu Bala resigned. And say, on that premise, we cannot recognize you as a faction because you resign. If you want us to recognize you as a faction, go get a court judgment. So when somebody wakes up after drinking 5 liters of a burukutu and comes out to say, let's say Idris wake up tomorrow now and say...
Zekeri, you have to take that statement back because you don't have that on record that there was any such consumption before he came out to speak.
No, I didn't say anybody drank. I say I drank burukutu now. So when I wake up after drinking 5 liters of burukutu and I say I am now an alternate Nigerian Info Radio, does that make me an alternate Nigerian Info Radio? Does that make me a faction of Nigerian Info? If I now sleep and wake up and say I am now an alternative president, I am now the president of Nigeria, is that not bordering on delusion?
And your explanation as to the Dumebi Kachuku group led by the state chairman?
Candidate. How can a presidential candidate lay claim to the administration of a political party?
He didn't. The state chairman were the ones that came out to speak.
Did you verify? Did you see them? Did you see? Because I know Edo State chairman here. I did not see him go to meet Dumebi Kachiku. I know the chairman in FCC. I did not see him with Dumebi Kachiku. At least I know this if I don't know any other.
But you agree that the state chairman came out to speak against both the Nafiu-led and the David Mark-led parties.
The question is, did you verify who is the state chairman? Anybody can come and say, I am a state chairman. The quarrel is Ralph Nwosu stayed longer than he should in national chairmanship. But that is now... Nobody challenged that then because they didn't have the kind of public acceptance they have now. Let me just tell you the bitter truth. Any political party that has now gained public appeal becomes a threat to the APC, they begin to have problems immediately. That should tell you that the monkey hand of APC is in all of the affairs and all of the crises you are seeing. But let me put it on record. Nigerians will never accept a one-party state. I am not a member of the ADC. I do not care about the ADC. I will not watch the ADC destroy APC if ADC was in power. Same way we will not watch APC destroy ADC because APC is in power. Nigerians must have choices. Even if you say all of the politicians in both parties are thieves, Nigeria must have the choice of picking between the thieves that should be stealing from them. You cannot force yourself on us. That is my final point on the matter.
All right, then. Ose has a few words to say before we move on. I know we have limited time with Idris. He has somewhere else to be, so please let's make this.
Just to, after hearing what my brother said, I don't think, I was going to just, if he was talking about the ADC matter, which I'm not a member of the party.
You may not be a party to it, but there are accusations about the hand of the APC in it.
That's why I decided to speak on it.
Okay, so said, what are your thoughts?
No, I think that is false.
Monkey hand,
that is very false. I believe the president has other more pressing issues to attend to, national issues to attend to, and bother himself about the leadership of the ADC, because these are people that have contested elections before. These are people that we know them. They have antecedents. So these are not people that should make you not sleep, or that should, if they gather together again, I can guarantee that they won't win elections. This is fact. The numbers are there. They've contested before, they've lost. So if they are gathering now and they're having internal squabbles within themselves, you can't, it's not everything. It's like the president doesn't have, it's not playing God over their issues. They had those issues before they went into that political party to form it. So it's not, these are people that have issues within themselves. Ordinarily, all they have now is a common enemy trying to unseat. And saying Nigeria is becoming a one-party state, I tend to disagree there. 2007, at exactly the same time that we are in, PDP had 31 state governors. APC had just one, right?
AC
had
at the
just
time,
one.
yes.
Yes. And I think Tinubu was the leader of the AC then in the Southwest. Now, how many years later? This is 2026. APC has 31 states, the same number of state governors. PDP has 2. They should try and put their house in order. They should stop this looking for someone to blame or somewhere to lay the bulk on. It's very convenient to say the president is trying to disorganize them and everything, but no, that's false. They went into a vehicle. It's almost like you are buying my. I sell to you my online social media account that has 1 million followers, right? But the email address there for recovery email is still mine. I sell it to you. I can always log you out of that system and take my address back because the recovery account is still mine. My phone numbers are still there. So you went into a vehicle without checking your checks and balances. And somewhere down the line, you are now accusing someone that has built a political party that was patient enough to build a political party and political influence from one party to 31, from one state to 31 states. And that takes a lot of tenacity and leadership. So when people come out and say, oh, there's the hand of Esau, that the president has, APC has a hand in the travels that are bedeviling the ADC, I laugh. I'm like, why? What is the evidence you have to that assumption? He spoke about the PDP and the Wike-led faction and everything. The Wike-led faction, if you follow the from the legal standpoint, not from the political emotional standpoint, they did everything within the ambit of the law. So if your house is not in order and there's someone inside your house that has put the national secretary, everybody that is meant to take decisions in the party, he has placed them there and they answer to him. Then you come, because you know you can't control those people, you try to push them out. And he goes to court. And he wins you in court, even if he's now the minority in the party. But he's the legally authorized, the people he controls in the party are the legally recognized people. That is not, there's nothing you can say to that. He beats them at their own game. That is also internal party politics. It has nothing to do with the APC. Wike was a disgruntled element in the PDP. So, and when there was the G5, the same thing played out during the Jonathan era, when Rotimi Amechi and those 5 governors, Bukola Saraki, all of them, when they walked out from PDP and joined and just formed the G5. I don't think they went to another party as at then, but they just formed the G5 group. And Jonathan lost that election. We didn't blame they walking out of PDP. We didn't ascribe it to the APC because they didn't go there. So why is that everything happens in Nigeria now? Somebody's looking for a male child, and your wife gives birth to a female child, is the APC.
Okay, let's ask one final question. I don't know how much longer Zekeri can give us, but one final question. According to news reports, the ADC is planning to go ahead with its convention tomorrow. Would you advise that they do that, or would you advise against that? Because if there are complaints right now about the court judgments, INEC's interpretation and all of that, them going ahead with the convention tomorrow might not make things any clearer for them. And you say you're not a member of the ADC, Zekeri, so can you advise, as a Nigerian who is looking forward to having a credible opposition that they can maybe hang on to as their vehicle heading into 2027, would you advise that they do that? Isn't that going to make things a lot worse? Because you don't want to go ahead, violate INEC, violate INEC's instructions, and still expect that afterwards they will honor you? Your thoughts on that very quickly.
Great question. But before I answer that question, to speak to some of the issues my brother was raised in the studio, he said Tinubu is not losing sleep about the political parties. I guarantee you, so help me God, Tinubu is losing a lot of sleep, especially when those who have come together beat him hands down in the last presidential election. You talked about the numbers. I don't think you have the numbers. All the persons who are now collating in the ADC had close to 14 million votes. Tinubu had a little above 8 million votes. So let's be clear. And that 8 million votes, some of them were politically generated, like in places like Rivers State and elsewhere. That is if you want to tell yourself the truth. But if you want to be politically correct, you can go ahead and continue to hold that opinion. But I guarantee you that Tinubu and those around him knows that he's swimming against the tide, and only a matter of time will tell. I just pray that if we had a more credible, not a discredited and disgraced INEC chairman, a more credible INEC chairman and a free and fair election. Of course, we are going to demand a free and fair election and insist on it. You will see that the election will be a walkover on election. They destroyed Labour. They are trying to take this in. It will not work. Well, those of us who are in the political activism sphere, we put our foot on the ground to insist that Nigerians have options. Having said that, you call politics a game. I have said this before. Politics is not a game. You don't beat people to their game in politics. Politics is life. Politics is more important than every other thing that we know and we are used to. It's not just a mere game that somebody wins and somebody loses. Everything in politics affects every other thing, including our public perception in Nigeria. The United Kingdom now has just increased their requirement for you to even come there as a student, even with your money, to go to the United Kingdom, because our country in the last 3 years have further gone down the drain, have gone to the dogs. 140 million multidimensionally poor, 30 plus million people living with extreme hunger. Let me not mention the figures for infant mortality and maternal mortality. Let me not mention the figures for terrorism and the loss of life. Even just today, we've lost a colonel again in the army, having lost a brigadier general who is an ace at command like me a few days ago. So if you feel the kind of pain I feel, having lost that gentleman officer, as high ranking as he is, you will know that this is not a joke. It's not a game at all. In the 4 years or 5 years that the US fought in Iraq, they did not lose a single general. But we have lost more than 5 generals or 5 colonel above in the last 1 year to 2 years. This is unacceptable, and you need to acknowledge that. Now, having answered that, to answer your question, Somi, the role of INEC in political party or in partisan politics is supervisory. The job of INEC is to supervise the political party. INEC has no administrative power over political party. INEC has no judicial powers over political party. So it is, in my enlightened opinion, that ADC must go on with every single aspect of their programs as a political party, starting with the convention convention they did in the states and the world, and then even the national convention that is holding, I think, sometime next week. I'm in Benin. I'm not a member of ADC, so I'm not part of it. So I don't know when they are doing it. But and this is the same thing I would have told APC if APC was the opposition to ADC. They should go on with all of their programs, and they should ensure that they do a free and fair primaries that produce the most competent, the most acceptable, the most popular candidate. And then let us see a situation where INEC will say they will not recognize the presidential candidate of a major, of course, of the leading opposition party. Then we will know that they are not ready for a democracy, they are not ready for free and fair election. And when he said that they are not pursuing a one-party state, I think that is a lie. They are pursuing a controlled opposition state, what you can effectively call a one-party state. In North Korea, they have more than one political party, but only one party wins. In Uganda, they have more than one political party, only one party wins. In Cameroon, they have more than one political party, only one party wins. That is what they are now pursuing in Nigeria, a situation where you have opposition parties that are not, firm enough to challenge the ruling party. APC came on the back of a free and fair election, defeated an incumbent president. APC cannot become law unto itself. We put our foot on the ground and we resist it. What is the worst that can happen? Like they're already threatening arrest and some of those things. There's nothing new under the sun. Even the same Tinubu that is president today was on exile. So if some of us go on exile, it will not be too much a price to pay to liberate our country. Thank you.
All right.
To take a leave, and I have to be in another station.
Okay. Any words for Idris before he goes?
Just before it goes, at times you compare when you compare some situations, you have to take into cognizance the factors surrounding the situation. He said something about the U.S. war, no single general was lost, but it wasn't fought on the soil of the U.S. And the U.S.-Iraq war was never fought in the U.S. So when you start making, when you compare the U.S. war that was fought
Sorry, he can't hear you. Just 1 second, Zekeri. Go ahead. Finish your thoughts, please.
So when you compare the U.S. war to what we are going to the guerrilla warfare we're experiencing in Nigeria here, that is almost like a civil war, citizens versus citizens. It's not apples and oranges. You don't nitpick around all these things. It's the the brigadier general that died from my state. It was very painful personally to me, and it's too much of it. That's too high a sacrifice to pay in this terrorism that we are facing. But if you notice what happened, it's not. I don't know how to explain this to my brother. The parties, still sticking to the political parties that he just called, that he said Tinubu is losing sleep because they are the greatest opposition and everything. These are just recycled leaders. If truly he is fighting you don't want a one-party state. He called other countries that have multiple parties, but one person controls the structure. If Nigeria is looking like a one-party state, it's not because you think APC is trying to have a hand in the opposition parties. It's because the people that are in those parties have moved and shuffled parties so much that it's beginning to look like they are all in the same party. It's not because the name of the vehicle is ADC today. It's because I've seen article in PDP, I've seen article in ADC, I've seen article in PDP, I've seen him in APC, I've seen him in so many parties right now that him being in ADC, it's almost like he's still in APC. It's like if Nigeria is a one-party state today, it's not because we have several political parties. No, it's a one-party state because all the political actors started from one party. So everybody's just fighting for their interest. And we see through it already. So Nigeria being a one-party state today is not because Peter Obi, Rauf, all these people decided to go and join the ADC. No, that's not why it's becoming a one-party state. It's becoming a one-party state because all of them, all the political gladiators we can see are all from one party. The only politician in Nigeria today that I know, I can't speak to the facts. The only politician I know today that
you just said you were on hard facts. Would like you to speak to the facts, please.
The only politician I know 100% that has stuck to his ideologies and has been in one party, and the party has just evolved to become APC, is Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
All right. On that note, we have to really have to let Zekeri Idris go for his other appointment. Ose has spoken. Any final responses, or we'll have to?
I want to thank my brother. I think we are beginning to have APC people come out to also speak, which is good. I want to have us debate the issues. We should be able to debate the issues from time to time. The problem I have had prior is that they have always been running away and they have been media shy. But I'm happy. I hope that maybe we're able to reschedule this and on a blow-by-blow basis discuss issues that affect the common man. I want to thank him for his courage and thank all of those who are also trying to now become less shy of the media. Thank you so much, and God bless you for the opportunity. God bless my brother, I will say.
Thank you. Thank you. You kept quiet. I thought you were going to say you're not an APC man. Thank you so much, Zekeri. All right, then. Definitely we'll be having these conversations more and more. And people, we've not forgotten you. We'll go to the phone lines in a bit. Zekeri had a prior appointment before I brought him in here. So let's take a quick commercial. When we come back, we open up the phone lines, get some of your thoughts, and move into the second story. Stay with us.
Where you can get it all trending.
People are dropping on their vehicle, are running, leaving their vehicle.
Where you can air your views.
I want to report the situation.
Only on your #1 station for talk.
This is not the way. We cannot continue like this.
95.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Even appeared on a TV program speaking in a manner that got everyone shocked, as if he was an interesting party in the case. Linus, your message is long. I'm going to have to stop it here, please, so that I can make room for others. Good afternoon, Somi. Please, can Mr. Zekeri allow Mr. Ose to speak as well? He should manage his time. He didn't. He allowed him speak. Please don't even start issues here where there are none. Good evening. Tunde from Mutako says ADC problem is squarely caused by ADC themselves. The David Mark faction passed through the back door to hijack the party. These individuals are just paying the sins they committed in 2015 when they... Okay, not clear. Now they are here crying me a river. No INEC chairman will be accepted by these people except he's a member of ADC. They should please sit down and settle their differences instead of apportioning blame on INEC. That'll be our last message. We need to go and get the news at the top of the hour. Joy Berber is standing by. When we come back, I guarantee you, phone lines will open up before we go to our second story. And for the second story, Ose is still here. We're going to be looking at the insecurity situation in Nigeria and federal government's handling of it. Two things on the table: the airstrike that happened at the Yobe-Borno border, and also the updated list of terrorism sponsors that was released over the weekend. Stay with us.
On your number one talk station.
You get a daily dose of news trends.
Crisis averted in aviation sector after aggrieved unions suspend strike.
Intense conversation.
She's among the ICPC board members. Oh. What has she experienced in life? 20 years with a doctor girl. She is there because she has level.
Sports and news to keep you updated all day and every day.
Join the conversation on your number one talk station.
95.1 Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Let's talk.
It happens here. Wura, FA Cup, and Premier League reconnect to DSTV.
This to everyone. Let's talk on Nigeria Info 95.1 Abuja.
very well. Go ahead, sir.
Happy New Week, ma.
Same to you.
My name is Udo, the next president.
All right, sir, go ahead. You have a minute.
Yeah, thank you. Why are we dwelling on one judgment out of the judgment from Court of Appeal? That is my question.
Okay.
Because in the judgment from the appeal, we have 3 judgments on the particular issue for ATC. Why are we dwelling on one and not reading the remaining 2? That also has a substance to do with the decision INEC has taken. So why sidelining the remaining 2? Can you please read it out for us to hear so that we'll be able to balance the whole arguments? Thank you.
All right, you have to point me in the direction of what exactly you are referring to. Ose, do you have any information on that?
I think he's still speaking to the judgment that the appeal court made.
Which is status quo ante bellum.
Yeah, status quo ante bellum. But what he's trying to say is that that's just one part of the judgment. You know,
okay.
These judgments are many issues and many prayers will be sought. And the appeal court, in giving his judgment, would attend to those issues. But people just conveniently pick on the areas of the judgments that they want to put on social media or demonize anybody with it. So what he's saying is that there are 2 other aspects that the court addressed. That probably, if you follow it from the precedent and the antecedents of the judgment, maybe that's what informed Amupitan's opinion or interpretation on what the judgment was about. But people just stood on the revert back antebellum to status quo. Now, if that's just one part of the judgment, I think we should also I myself will take out time to go back and look at and go through the judgment and see if there are other parts that could have informed his decision to interpret the judgment the way he did.
Okay. We will let you know when we get that update. All right, here. Some more calls. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Somi.
Welcome, sir.
Dr. Lajide from Uduebor State.
Good to have you here, sir. Please go ahead.
Your guests have all spoken well according to what they know and the way they interpreted the court judgment. So they have that right to do that. My question is this. One of your guests was calling INEC a liar, a this or that they verify his account, I've done this, they've done that. But court supports his allegation. Can you tell all the court that support his allegation? Which court have they taken to that they tried him in the court and they discovered through the court of Nigeria that Amukuta was lying? Secondly, interpretation of the law. Did Amukuta just wake up one night and say he don't want to see ABC faces? Amukuta sat quietly in his office. ABC member took a court judgment before the table. For heaven's sake, why are we doing this to ourselves? If Amukuta has interpreted, what are they supposed to have done? Are they not supposed to go back to that court again? Instead of doing that, they are all on social media or radio stations. And time is running out of them. So we discussed this matter last week. The way these people are going, this guy is not taking. ABC will not be on ballot. They should leave this emotion and sentiment they are all playing about. The final arbiter is the court of law.
All right.
Not social media. Not on radio stations. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is James. I'm calling you from Mose presently.
All right, go ahead.
I want to ask a very, very serious question. Have you ever read the ADC handbook? Because I believe every political party has its own handbook.
I haven't.
And good. I wish the other guest is online to answer this question, because it's actually more like it belongs to that political party or technically judging it. Now, there is, you listen There was a time that one of the ED chairmen came out to say, an ordinary person cannot just join this party and be a national chairman. That you must have to be in that party for 6 months first before you become the national chairman. And today, you see my issue with Nigeria is, once Nigeria are against you, they expect everybody should be against you. If they are with you, they expect everybody should be with you. If this same INEC did not go by what the court said, it is the same way that will start criticizing INEC. INEC, they are not independent. You see, some of these are Jobber online guys. We know them. So we don't need to even point out to them. From their words, you understand that these are Jobber boys for these political guys. It is very low. Thank you.
Well, if you're referring to my guest, then I will have to take exception to that. Just because anybody feels very strongly about anything doesn't automatically translate to the fact that they're jobber men, as you call him. But let's get to the second story and then we'll go back to the phone lines. We're looking at security situations as we typically do here on Hard Facts, where we look at the roundup of everything that's happened in the country. Now, some of the biggest news coming out from insecurity, from the country concerning insecurity. This one has to do with an Air Force strike, which the Nigerian Air Force has just about launched an investigation into, where civilians may have been affected during an airstrike. Okay, this happened in Jili, a community in Yobe State bordering Borno. And in a statement issued on Sunday, the NAF spokesperson, Ehime Jodame, an air commodore, said the strike was carried out on Saturday the 11th, but acknowledged emerging claims that a local market may have been hit, resulting in civilian casualties. Mr. Ejodame said the chief of the air staff has directed the immediate deployment of the Civilian Harm Accident and Investigation Cell, the CHI cell, to the area to undertake a fact-finding mission. They said, or rather he said, that the service treats all reports of possible civilian harm with the utmost seriousness and empathy, as the protection of innocent lives remains central to all NAF operations. Now, this clarification, we're understanding, had to come out because some human rights groups and CSO, CISLAC, as a matter of fact, and Amnesty International came out, talking about it and talking about numbers. I want to refrain from calling the numbers because some of them are over 100, some of them are just under 100. We're getting different reports at this time. But Mr. Jodame speaking was urging that we refrain from speaking out of prejudice. And I honestly, I understand the role of the Air Force and, wanting to verify some of these things, but to come right out and claim prejudice, I think was a bit worrisome, especially given the fact that this is not the first time that we are having these kinds of attacks happen, right? So they've launched an investigation into the airstrikes. We're going to wait for the outcome of that investigation. But given the fact that, again, like I said, this is not the first time we're having these things happen, we must ask certain questions concerning why we've had this happen not once, not twice. Chile is happening. About 3 years ago in 2023, there was the, say again?
I think Uduebor.
Yes. No, which one was which? Now, was it Uduebor before RAN? Oh, yes, RAN was in 2017. So we have these things happen, and while we are all for the military, going all out and fighting, we've had conversations on this station about why it's so important for them to outrightly decimate the terrorists. Any concerns around civilian casualties, I think, is enough cause for concern. So let me have Ose weigh in here, right? You are having a context of, within the context of military operations, civilian casualties by the numbers. Is this something that we should just attribute as casualties of these kinds of guerrilla warfare, as you put it? Or can there be more done to avoid these things happening?
I think there can be more done. And first, I think we should maybe 10 seconds of silence for the lives lost, and we'll continue.
Or if we're going to do it, we're going to do an entire minute. But let's do that.
An entire minute. Okay,
yes.
Maybe we'll do that after the show.
Yes,
that's okay.
Indeed.
Now, it's as a Nigerian, I'm pained that we keep having these reoccurrences. Now, we'll have to establish the antecedents before we can now say, okay, we can now come to a conclusion. Oh, was this done? As we speak now, we've not gotten all the facts. We know that there was an air assault over the weekend.
Yes.
Now, we also
it was
know
targeting a terrorist enclave and logistics hub.
Exactly. And we know that place, that the village Gili you just mentioned, has been a heartland it's a stronghold for the terrorists. It's a border town between, I think,
Yobe and
Maiduguri. Yeah, it's a very stronghold for the terrorists, right? Now, this market that we speak about, I don't know if you read recently, Governor Zulum came out to say that market has been closed because of terrorism-related things 5 years ago. Now, many might argue that, when you close the market, did you give them an alternative place to trade and all that? But I'll give an analogy. If I tell you that there's snake in that toilet, don't use it. Don't use it till I say so. And after 2 years, you just feel, this toilet is here now, and by now the snake has left. And I didn't tell you to go there. And you go back there and the snake bites you. Would you sue me? Would I be liable for... I told you not to go to that.
I would honestly expect that you would give me an alternative, a place to use. Because what we're seeing happening is there's so many pockets of these terrorists across all of these towns, especially border towns. There is emphasis on border towns. So you're seeing a lot of this happening. And literally, these residents of these communities and these injuries, they have nowhere to go. So you preempted my question, when you raised the fact about where do you, because 5 years for a market to be closed and no alternative.
Now, let me, I tend to disagree. Now, because of the unique nature of the warfare our military is fighting, these are not, when we call them terrorists, these are not foreigners. Let's get that clear. These are citizens of Nigeria.
Is that authoritative word that they are citizens?
If we are going to use the premise of Boko Haram, Shekau, and the first person that started the ideology that gave birth to Boko Haram is a Nigerian.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that everything that has happened since then and all of these or groups operating are all Nigerians.
No, they might not be all Nigerians. But I always say this: insecurity is local, right? You see something, you say something. We can't nitpick these things. We can't run away from the fact that there are some communities that are Boko Haram sympathizers that harbor these people within the community, that sell bread, that sell rice, that sell beans to these people within the community.
Is it a case of sympathizing with them, or is it a case of they have absolutely nothing else to do and so they are doing that out of survival?
If you take the ideology of against Western education, there are a lot of people that may share that ideology but might not be radical, but they share the ideology. So if they see someone that is taking arms up to perpetrate that ideology, they might not necessarily pick arms, but they can give you foodstuff. Now, if we say this same thing happened during Jonathan time, there was information that terrorists were going to come and attack a school. And they told them not to write exams in that school, but they went ahead and wrote exams, and the terrorists actually came and kidnapped the students. So if we are saying, if you tell people that if you go to this place, terrorists would kill you, don't go there, because we know that this is their stronghold. And you ask the government, where did you relocate? This is a community that millions have been displaced from. This is a community that millions have been displaced from. People have moved. So those that still decide to reside, the IDP camps, those that still decide to reside in those communities where the civilians have been sacked and displaced, we have to question. Well, now there's that sympathy part of, where do you want them to go to? But I believe when there's unrest, is the government's the first primary responsibility of the government is to move those civilians to a safe place.
And it's okay for you to do that within the first year. It's okay to even have IDP camps up to the second year. But I think part of the issue that we're having, and it's probably one of what these criminal groups are also taking advantage of, is that there is no long-term plan for these residents. So you have them, you move them in the first year, you move them by the second year. By the third year, their new home becomes an IDP camp, which is also not not an ideal place for them to be. Now, you have moved them to a camp, for example. Again, I come back to Zulum's comment, talking about how the market had been shut down 5 years ago. A lot of these communities are largely agrarian. So even if you have a place to lay your head, you will still, want to set up a little farm somewhere, go and do a little bit of business. So would you, I hear what you're saying about, disregarding, warnings from a government who is trying to protect you. But at the same time, wouldn't you still fault the same government for their lackluster, if you will, plans concerning these people who have to live with the sounds of bombs and gunshots every day, when you don't even put them in a place that they can say, okay, I'm good enough here. I have a farming community. I have a market that we can set up, so I don't have to go back there. Because Zulum's statement makes it seem like the people who got killed may have been to blame.
Now, another thing we should also look at, the Navy has deployed, because when this thing happened, 2023, at, what was it called, Tundanburi, the Navy came out and categorically said that they apologized and said compensation will be given to the families. I don't know if that has been done of the victims. But they also said that going forward, they will be 100% certain of their targets before they deploy an airstrike. Now, people, when you deploy an airstrike, when you drop a bomb in an environment, it's a target. You're using, I believe this is in synergy with intelligence, right? Intelligence reports that these people are here, let's strike them. Maybe they had a target, a high-profile figure that they made that strike and did all that. Now, the people don't die. When you go to the scene, you don't see people don't die as terrorists. They die as human beings, right? So the Navy has to go there and ascertain that, okay, these people are calling civilians are not actually terrorists. Because when we have to be careful for misinformation. Because I read somewhere that it was Sheikh Gumi that said civilians were killed at that market. And when I read the comments to that post, people were like, they've targeted Sheikh Gumi's boys. That's why he's coming to say they are civilians. So let's not be quick to push a narrative that innocent civilians were killed when an investigation is still ongoing. Because if you ask the Navy now, what was the source of your intelligence? Who were your target people? They will tell you they knew that terrorists were either at that market or within the vicinity.
But the same Navy, again, I'm going to read that report again, but the same Navy acceded to the fact that there may have been a misfire. So that also calls that into question. Let's take a quick beat. We'll be back to continue.
Okay.
This is Nigeria Info.